One winter evening, a black restaurant owner, fighting to save his faltering business, noticed an elderly woman and her young grandson trembling in the cold. He welcomed them inside, offered warmth, and prepared a hot meal for them. Little did he know that this small gesture of compassion would spark a series of events that would transform his life. Before we dive in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Leave a comment below with your location. The neon sign of Jackson's Diner blinked faintly against the snowy night, casting jagged shadows across the deserted street. Inside, Marcus Jackson sat slumped over a pile of unpaid bills, his father's old chef's knife resting nearby like a quiet rebuke. The red ink on the paper seemed to grow with every glance. Rent, utilities, suppliers who no longer bothered to call, knowing he had nothing to offer. "I've failed you, Pops," he murmured to the empty dining room, his fingers tracing the worn handle of the knife that had served 3 generations. "I've let this place fade away." The stillness was heavy, interrupted only by the faint hum of an aging fridge. Outside, snow-blanketed streets that rarely saw customers anymore. Fast food giants had choked the life from his business, leaving Jackson's Diner as a relic of a vanishing era. Marcus locked the door and stepped into the freezing night, wondering if he'd still have a key to turn tomorrow. At the corner of Beacon Avenue, 2 figures crouched against a brick wall, wrapped in a tattered blanket. An old woman held a young boy close, both shivering against the wind slicing through their thin clothing. Marcus slowed, struck by the sight of their desperate embrace. 2 people with nowhere left to turn. "Grandma, it's so cold," the boy whispered, his voice frail as the winter air. The words stopped Marcus in his tracks. He stood, watching 2 souls forgotten by the world, holding on to each other as if their connection was their last tether to life. Something inside him broke. He'd been wrestling with his own despair for months, but this was deeper, sharper. He had walls, a roof, and a stove that still worked. They had nothing. Approaching them, his boots crunching on the icy ground, he spoke softly. "You don't have to stay out here tonight. I run that place over there," he said, nodding toward the flickering sign of Jackson's Diner. "It's closed, but I can whip up something warm for you both. Come inside." The woman's grip tightened on the boy, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. "We don't take handouts," she said, her voice firm despite its weariness. Marcus exhaled, his breath visible in the cold. He wanted to say it wasn't charity, just humanity. But before he could, the boy stirred, his wide eyes darting between his grandmother and Marcus. "Please, Grandma," he pleaded softly, "I'm freezing." The woman's resolve wavered, her shoulders slumping under the weight of his small voice. She gave a faint nod, barely noticeable, but enough. Marcus led them across the street, unlocking the door. Warmth poured out as he pushed it open, a fragile shield against the winter's chill. He settled them in a booth near the heater and disappeared into the kitchen. His hands moved instinctively, chopping, stirring, warming broth in a rhythm born of survival. Soon, he set 2 steaming bowls of soup before them. The boy's face brightened, his small hands fumbling with the spoon, slurping eagerly. The woman hesitated, then took a sip, her eyes closing briefly. "It's good," she whispered. Marcus leaned against the counter, a knot in his chest loosening as he watched them eat. But when the bowls were empty, the truth settled in. Sending them back into the snow would be a death sentence. Clearing his throat, he gestured toward the back. "There's a storage room behind the kitchen," he said quietly. It's got a couch, some blankets. Not much, but it's warmer than outside. Stay here tonight." The woman's eyes flashed, glistening with unshed tears, her mouth opening as if to protest. But the boy tugged her sleeve, his gaze pleading. She swallowed, nodded once, and whispered, "Thank you." In that moment, Marcus felt a faint spark inside him, not joy, but a fragile hope that maybe he hadn't failed. Because sometimes a home isn't just walls or a roof. Sometimes it's the heart of a man who has nothing left but still chooses to give. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the windows of Jackson's diner, glinting off salt shakers and napkin holders. The street outside lay quiet under fresh snow. Inside, something had changed. Marcus unlocked the door, expecting the same dim, cluttered space he'd left behind, but stopped short. The restaurant was immaculate. Chairs were neatly tucked under tables, windows sparkled in the faint light, and the counter, once buried under bills, was clear, the papers organized in tidy stacks. The floor gleamed as if scrubbed to its core. Marcus stood frozen, his breath catching. This wasn't how he'd left it. He set his keys down, fingers brushing the polished counter, and listened. From the back room came the rustle of fabric and a child's soft voice. He moved toward the storage room, his steps loud against the spotless floor. Pushing the door open, he saw them, the old woman folding rags with deliberate care, the boy perched on a stool, his legs swinging as he bent over a piece of paper. The boy looked up, his face alight with excitement. "Look," he shouted, thrusting the paper toward Marcus. "We cleaned everything. Grandma said if we're staying, we should help. And I drew this for you." The woman stood, brushing her skirt, her eyes meeting Marcus's with a mix of pride and defiance. "You gave us shelter," she said softly. "The least we could do is respect it." Marcus took the drawing from the boy. It showed Jackson's diner, but not as it was. In the boy's vision, it was alive, windows glowing, tables filled with smiling people eating together. Above the door, a banner read "Jackson's Diner" in shaky letters. In the corner, 3 small figures stood at the entrance, a man, an old woman, and a boy. Marcus's throat tightened. He looked from the drawing to the boy's hopeful eyes, then to the woman's weathered face, braced for judgment. Instead of frustration, he felt something new stirring, small, but real. "Not bad, kid," he said, his voice rough. "Not bad at all." The boy beamed, chest puffed out like he'd won a prize. The woman's lips curved slightly, a rare smile. Marcus turned, grabbing a dish towel to hide the sting in his eyes. He busied himself at the counter, but inside, a faint ember of hope flickered, one he hadn't felt in months. A sharp knock at the door shattered the moment, the glass rattling with its force. Marcus tensed, shoulders squaring as he tossed the towel aside and approached. Through the window, he saw a man in a heavy coat, breath fogging the glass. Marcus opened the door. The man stepped inside without hesitation, his eyes scanning the spotless restaurant. A smirk curled his lips. "Cleaner than your finances, Jackson," he said, his tone biting. "Funny how you can polish a floor but not pay your debts." Marcus's jaw clenched, his grip on the door tightening. He stayed silent, his only shield. The man leaned closer, his smirk sharpening. 2 weeks, he said casually, his eyes cold. "Pay up or this place isn't yours anymore." He tapped the counter, turned, and left, his boots crunching in the snow as the door closed. Marcus stood still, his breath shallow, the man's words heavy on his chest. His hands trembled, and he clenched them to stop the shaking. But it wasn't just his hands. It was fear, shame, and anger knotted together. Behind him, the woman stepped into the doorway, her gaze sharp. She didn't speak, but she'd seen his trembling hands, his pained silence. The boy peeked out, his face pale with worry. "Who was that, Mr. Jackson?" he asked softly. Marcus turned, softening his expression as he knelt and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Don't worry," he said, his voice steady despite the strain. "It's nothing for you to think about." The boy nodded, though his eyes searched Marcus's face. The woman's gaze lingered, heavy with understanding, but she remained silent. Marcus stood, grabbed the towel, and turned back to the counter. The restaurant was quiet, filled with the scent of lemon and soap. Sunlight touched the clean tables, but the man's threat hung in the air, cold and heavy. On the counter lay the boy's drawing, its little figures standing before a vibrant Jackson's diner, smiling as if nothing could break them. Marcus stared at it, lips pressed tight. "Not yet, kid," he whispered to himself. "Not yet, because sometimes dawn doesn't erase the darkness. Sometimes it only shows how close the cold still waits outside." The next morning, the air in Jackson's diner felt different. Marcus stood behind the counter, staring at the stack of bills he'd pushed aside. The debt collector's words echoing. 2 weeks. The handful of customers lately wouldn't cover the debt. His gaze drifted to the boy's drawing, pinned under a salt shaker. In it, Jackson's diner was alive, its windows warm, tables full. The vision gripped him tighter than the fear of losing everything. For the first time in weeks, he wondered, what if? He moved to the kitchen, chopping and stirring, pans sizzling with the aroma of roasted chicken and cornbread. He cooked more than he had in months, ignoring the voice warning of wasted supplies. The old woman watched from a table, her brow raised. "What's this?" she asked, her tone cautious but steady. Marcus set down the ladle, wiping his forehead. "If they won't come to us," he said with a faint smile, "we'll go to them." Her lips pressed together, but before she could reply, the boy leapt up, curls bouncing, voice bright with excitement. "You mean we're giving food away outside?" His eyes sparkled, hands clasped as if holding a treasure. "Free samples," Marcus clarified. "People might stop, taste, and remember what real food feels like." He softened, looking at the boy. "And maybe some will come back." By late morning, the three stood outside the restaurant's doors. The sky was clear, but the cold bit hard, every breath a puff of mist. Hours passed slowly. Marcus sat in a plastic chair, clothes damp from snow, hands clenched. The old woman sat beside him, gripping an envelope, silent tears on her cheeks. When a doctor finally approached, her voice was calm. "He'll be okay," she said. "Pneumonia, but we caught it early. He needs medicine and a few days here." Relief flooded Marcus, his face buried in his hands, shoulders trembling. The woman touched his arm. "You gave everything," she whispered. "Your last chance to save this place for him." Marcus looked up, eyes red but steady. "He's just a kid," he said. "He deserves a chance." They stayed by the boy's bed all night, taking turns watching. By morning, his fever had broken, his breathing calm. In the hallway, the woman spoke softly. "I need to tell you who we are," she said. "Why were we on that street?" Marcus waited. "I'm Clara Thompson," she said. "Noah's my grandson." His mother, my daughter, died in a car accident 3 years ago. His father wasn't ready to raise him and left. I took Noah in, but I was already struggling on a fixed income. Medical bills piled up, and when I couldn't pay rent, we were evicted. Her voice broke. I raised 5 kids, buried 2, lost my husband to cancer. I thought I'd faced everything, but seeing Noah hungry, shivering in alleys, that broke me in a way I didn't know I could break. Marcus's throat tightened. He covered her hand with his. You're a good grandmother. Noah knows you love him. Clara's eyes glistened. You treated him like your own. You gave up everything to save him. I've never seen that from a stranger. Her voice softened. You're the father he's never had, Marcus. And I think you need us as much as we need you. Her words sank deep. He'd carried the weight of failure alone for so long, watching his father's dreams slip away. But with them, he felt something new, a family. When we get back, he said quietly, no more storage room. There are 2 empty rooms above the restaurant. They're old, but we can fix them up, make them real bedrooms. If you want to stay, if you want this to be home. Clara's face broke, tears falling as she nodded, gripping his hand. From the room, Noah's small voice called, Grandma, is that you? They rushed in. Noah was awake, eyes clearer. He looked from Clara to Marcus. You stayed, he said softly. Marcus knelt by the bed, touching his forehead. Of course, son. That's what family does. Noah gave a faint smile, his first since falling ill. Family, he whispered, testing the word. His brow furrowed. But the restaurant, the man who came. Marcus glanced at Clara, both knowing what awaited at Jackson's diner. The debt collector would return, and the money was gone. The restaurant was likely lost. But looking at Noah, Marcus felt something shift. The restaurant was his father's dream, but Noah and Clara had given him something greater. Don't worry, he told Noah firmly. We'll figure it out together. Because when a child's life is at stake, you don't count the cost you act. And in that act, you discover who you are. 3 days later, they returned to Jackson's diner. Noah was weak but healing, his eyes bright with a child's resilience. Clara moved with purpose, no longer the woman who'd huddled under a blanket. She cleaned the upstairs rooms, borrowed furniture from neighbors, and hung curtains made from tablecloths. Noah, too tired to run, sat on pillows, giving orders like a little commander. His drawings covered every surface. The big room's for you and Grandma, he told Marcus seriously. I want the small one with the window so I can see people coming to eat. Marcus smiled at his certainty, though he knew the truth. Word had spread that Jackson's diner was closing. The debt collector had insured it, preparing buyers for the day it would be taken. That afternoon, as Clara tucked Noah in for a nap, a heavy knock came. It carried authority, deliberate and sharp. Marcus opened the door to see the same man, now with 2 others, their presence like a shadow. The lead man stepped in, smirking. Time's up, Jackson, he said. I hear you've been playing family instead of paying debts. Marcus's fists clenched, but his voice stayed even. Before he could respond, Clara appeared on the stairs, her chin high, eyes clear. Mr. Jackson doesn't have your money, she said firmly. The man laughed, sharp and mocking. That's clear. So he's out and we're in. He gestured as if he already owned the place. Shame, nice spot. Clara reached into her pocket, pulling out a thick, worn envelope bound with a rubber band. But I do, she said quietly. The room stilled. Marcus turned, stunned. Clara, what? She held his gaze, her voice trembling but resolute. My son died in that accident 3 years ago. This is the settlement money for Noah's future, for a home, for something better. But tonight it belongs here. She faced the man. How much? 43,000, he said, eyes fixed on the envelope. Call it 50. Clara undid the band, her hand shaking, revealing stacks of bills. 50,000 exactly, she said. Every cent I have. She began counting. No, Marcus said sharply, stepping forward, his voice raw. Clara, I can't let you. She turned, eyes fierce. You gave everything to save Noah's life. You spent your last dollar because you couldn't let him suffer. This money, she gestured to the restaurant, Noah's drawings, the rooms above, has sat in my purse for 3 years, reminding me of loss. But this is what my son would have wanted. A family, a future. His memory lives here now. She placed the money on the counter. Take it, she told the man, and don't come back. The collector's smirk faded. He counted the bills, then looked at them. Debt's clear, he said. Place is yours. He paused, a flicker of respect in his eyes. Hell of a thing, standing by each other like that. He and his men left, their boots crunching in the snow. The restaurant felt lighter, freer. Marcus sank into a booth, staring at Clara as she folded the empty envelope. Why? He asked hoarsely. That was all you and Noah had. She sat across from him. No, she said softly. All we had was each other. The money was just paper. This, she looked at the clean tables, Noah's drawings, the rooms above, is what we have now. A home, a purpose, a future. Marcus's eyes stung. I don't know how to repay you. You already have, she said. You gave us a family. From upstairs, Noah's voice called. Are we still here? Did they take our home? Clara smiled, a true smile of peace. No, sweetheart, she called. We're still here, all of us. Noah's footsteps pattered down, his laughter filling the space. Marcus watched, feeling something settle. The restaurant was no longer his father's burden or his own failure. It was something new, a place where strangers became family, where the lost found home. Some things, he realized, aren't measured in dollars, but in sacrifice and the strength of standing together. With the debt cleared, Jackson's Diner transformed in ways Marcus hadn't dreamed possible. Clara worked with quiet determination, turning the upstairs into a true home while keeping the restaurant alive below. Noah, now healthy, became its spirit, greeting customers with joy that melted even the grumpiest hearts. Word spread about Marcus' sacrifice for a sick child and Clara as life savings to save their home. The story grew, drawing people not just for food, but for a place where love outweighed money. Mornings brought familiar faces and new ones. Mrs. Daniels brought her grandkids every Sunday. Construction workers made it their lunch spot. College students came for affordable, home-cooked meals. More than that, the restaurant became a sanctuary. On Saturdays, Marcus opened early for free meals, serving the homeless, single mothers, and lonely elders. Clara managed the books with skill, stretching every dollar. She turned the back room into a community space where kids did homework by the windows and Noah shared his crayons. We're not a charity, she told Marcus one evening as they cleaned. We're a family business, and families look out for each other. Marcus looked around at Noah's drawings, customer photos, and thank you notes on the walls. A bulletin board held job listings and neighborly offers. "Your father would be proud," Clara said softly. "This place has heart again." That night, alone in the quiet restaurant, Marcus picked up Noah's latest drawing. The three of them outside Jackson's diner, surrounded by smiling customers. At the bottom, in uneven letters, Noah had written, "Our family restaurant, where everyone belongs." Marcus pinned it to the wall, smiling. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but tonight he rested in the proof they'd built something worth keeping. 3 months later, Jackson's Diner was a community cornerstone. On Christmas morning, they opened for anyone with nowhere to go. Neighbors filled the tables, sharing stories over turkey and cornbread. Clara said it was the first holiday in years she didn't feel alone. One evening, Noah ran downstairs, face glowing. "Dad, come see what Grandma Clara and I made." Marcus went to a scrapbook on the kitchen table, filled with photos, clippings, drawings, and notes. Noah pointed proudly. "Here's my first drawing of us, the article about helping people, and all the thank you cards." Clara pointed to a photo of them on Christmas, surrounded by guests. "That day," she said, "I felt I belonged again." Marcus studied it, recalling his worry about food running out, only to see joy overflow. Noah held up a drawing of the restaurant with a sign, "The Jackson Thompson Family Restaurant." "When did you make that?" Marcus asked. "I didn't," Noah said seriously, "but I want to. We're a family now, so it should have all our names." Clara's eyes glistened. "If that's what we all want," she said softly. Marcus's chest tightened. He looked at the two who'd entered his life on that freezing night, bringing nothing but need and giving him everything he lacked. "I can't think of anything I'd want more," he said. Noah cheered, hugging him. "I'm making the sign tomorrow." Later, alone with the scrapbook, Marcus turned its pages. Noah's first day in the kitchen. Clara teaching reading, community dinners, quiet moments of their chosen family. The last page held Noah's drawing and Clara as note. "Sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones we choose. Love doesn't need blood, only open hearts and willing hands." This is the story of 3 broken people becoming whole and a struggling restaurant becoming a home for a community. Jackson's Diner, where love is the main ingredient. Marcus closed the book, looking out at the glowing neon sign. The dining room was ready for tomorrow, but more than that, it was a life built on something stronger than profit. His father was right. A restaurant was about giving people what they needed most, belonging. As Marcus prepared for bed in the home above, he understood success. It wasn't money or awards. It was lives touched, hearts warmed, hope restored. Jackson's Diner was that a place where every meal carried love, and every visitor found proof that kindness endures. Because the best families, like the best restaurants, are built one meal, one moment, one act of love at a time. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting like and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.